next guy is kind of coming out of the woodworks here a little bit is Michael Wilson. Um, he was actually he was a Stanford guy, third
I was
round
Jay.
drafted. Okay, go ahead. What?
Uh, I was gonna say quick just to close up the last point. Browns, Chargers, Bucks, and Seahawks all have buys this week. So if you have any of the any stocks of any of those players like Lockett or um, Herbert, any of those guys, make sure you bench them and get somebody in.
All right. So back to Michael Wilson, third round player drafted by the Cardinals and this year. He played all 5 years in Stanford. He's 6'2". He had so in his 5 years with Stanford, he had 11 touchdowns. So he had 134 receptions, 1,662 yards in total in the 5 years. His first 2 years he played 22 games total. The last three, he only played 14 games. So pretty much in his sophomore year, 56 receptions, 672 yards with 5 touchdowns. His senior year, 26 receptions, 418 yards, and then only four touchdowns. So this guy had a very limited sample size playing. I think he must have been injured quite a bit. His first couple of years, he must have been healthy where he was he wasn't 1,000-yard receiver. So I mean, this guy he's kind of more like a complementary like wide receiver 2. He's not a full blown wide receiver 1. Just from what I saw, he kind of had some bursts. I mean, he's got some nice intermediate, not really deep ball, but more kind of your kind of intermediate kind of guy. I mean, he's got some good jump ball skills. I just think he needs a lot more work. But he did have a good game this weekend, and it was a pretty hard game. So I mean, Dobbs' only option was Michael Wilson. He had 26 points. He was out in 70% of snaps. 7 targets, had all 7 receptions, 76 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So I mean, maybe this is kind of an outspring or uprise for Michael Wilson over Marquise Brown and the other slot guy down there.
I think going forward, I like this kid, especially now we're getting into week 4 or 5. When it's starting to become slimmer pickings in terms of who the quality of guy you can grab. Like week 1 you could get Tank Dell, you could get a lot of Puka Nakua, possibly Tutu Atwell. You get a lot of those kind of guys. Now we're it's starting to the herd's starting to thin out a little bit. So and I'll mention in my waivers too when I do my Fab Five. Michael Wilson, I think is the best of the bunch right now, and definitely, I think what I think he's their number 2. I really do because Rondale Moore has never shown me. I mean, he's popped a couple times over over his career, last couple years, but he's never shown me he's got anything beyond being a number 3. So and Hollywood Brown on weeks when good defenses are going to shut, like San Francisco, you ain't going to run the score up on them and throw for 400 yards or anything crazy like that. But on weeks where Hollywood Brown's getting shut down, Michael Wilson's going to step up, and I think you're going to see a few more games like this. I think, especially in division, I think when they play the Rams, Seahawks, I think you can see maybe 3 or 4 more games like this where he has either multiple touchdowns or a decent number of targets and yards. I mean, this was a really good fantasy week, man. This was 26 points, or almost 27.
Yeah, it was. It's I know we talked about Michael Wilson a little bit in our divisional preview, and I don't remember what we all mentioned about him. And I think we might have highlighted him a little bit, I believe.
That he was one of those guys that fell. I mean, he kind of because they had talked him up in training camp and some of the preseasons. That okay, this guy. I mean, we heard the same stuff about Puka. It's like they knew immediately. Sean McVay, they knew immediately. Okay, this guy's got it. Michael Wilson, not to that level. I mean, he's not breaking records like Puka, but they knew what they had in him. And I think what happened, Stanford has been a bad program. When he was there, the 4 or 5 years, Stanford's been awful. I mean, this isn't the 10 years ago with David Shaw and Harbaugh and when they were a good program with CMC, Luck, when they used to have good players. I mean, they had nobody around him. and I think he was hurt. From what I was reading, and I think a lot of teams just stayed away from him, and he went lower in the draft because of that. And the Cardinals got themselves a steal. So I like Michael Wilson a lot.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let's our next guy is a two-time guy who made our highlighted players for